A storm brings more than just bad weather to the doctors of Peak Practice.
What is it, Jack?
He's unconscious.
Why?
Chloe, I need you to stay strong.
Has something happened between you and Sarah?
What do you mean, something?
I mean, are you getting back together again?
Sean, I'm going to have to put this on you. I want you to breathe through it. Do you understand?
What is wrong with him, Dr. Coleman?
It's an asthma attack. We're going to need an ambulance.
Peak Practice, Tuesday at 9 on Central.
Secret tests reveal that Mars miniatures are too little to be dangerous, even when dropped from a great height.
At Rover Dealers, we're including a year's free membership of our accident management program with every new Rover. One phone call and you can leave everything for us to sort out. And we mean everything. Leave it to your Rover dealer and it should seem like your accident never happened.
Thousands of shops are disappearing from Britain's high streets every year. But there is now a commercial organisation which, through customer recommendations and through investment in retail property, aims to do something about this problem. It's called the Guild of Excellence. Look for subscription forms in the press and subscribe to the Guild of Excellence now.
There is no tougher test on your hands than working in the coldest and roughest of conditions. But through long experience, Arctic fishermen have learnt that Neutrogena can look after their hands. Neutrogena hand cream is clinically proven to give immediate relief. And it can also work for you. Neutrogena, hard-working hand cream for hard-working hands.
Every day, thousands of people like you join the search for a brighter future. It's not easy. You face a long, challenging climb through a rapidly changing world. You want to get ahead, but you need an edge. You need training. Only through training can you get the skills and qualifications needed to lift yourself above the crowd. To realize your ambitions throughout your working life. To reach your goal. Call 0345 665588 for an information pack and let training free your potential.
Mars miniatures are too little to have a clever advertising slogan. George.
Sorry.
Fire!
Major Sharp, South Essex. Leave it to Sharp. You and I are going to go into battle.
Come on!
Real battle.
New battles, new conquests, new loves.
You're going to have to be good.
Sharp, doing what he does best. Wednesday the 12th of April on Central. You're with Central. The time is 10 o'clock.
From ITN News at 10 with Julia Somerville.
Winnie Mandela is sacked by her husband, the president. Ambulance crews may take industrial action over pay. The puzzle of the petrol that caused a Grand Prix fiasco. And countdown for Oscar in Tinseltown tonight. Good evening. President Nelson Mandela of South Africa today grasped the nettle and sacked his wife Winnie from her job as Deputy Minister of Arts, Culture, Science and Technology. He said it was after much reflection. Winnie Mandela, for a long time the president's staunchest supporter, had become an embarrassment and one of his harshest critics. She still has strong support in the African National Congress and the townships, and she could mount a political challenge to him. The Zulu leader, Chief Buthelezi, said tonight he feared a tragedy. Our Africa correspondent Mark Austin reports.
After weeks of dithering and delay, President Mandela finally bit the political bullet today, sacking the estranged wife who had simply pushed him too far.
This decision has been taken both in the interest of good government and to ensure the higher standards of discipline among leading officials. I hope that this action will help the former deputy minister to review and seek to improve on her own conduct in position of responsibility.
In the last few weeks, the woman known as the Queen of the Townships has been the centre of controversy, with growing allegations of corruption leading to a police raid on her luxury Soweto home. Her fierce criticisms of her own government have also upset the president. Only yesterday she was spitting defiance at a township rally.
We'll make our voices heard loud and clear within the organization to get it back on the right track.
The last straw was her criticism of the royal visit to South Africa, which she described as a waste of money.
We give the Queen, with her many jewels, more presents of jewels.
Today she remained in her well-guarded flat, uncharacteristically silent. Only this statement this evening from a spokesman.
She is speaking to people and does not feel that it would be suitable for her to make any comment on the matter at this point because of the sensitivities involved.
It was Winnie's marriage to Nelson Mandela in 1958 which marked the beginning of a political alliance that has dominated South Africa. Winnie Mandela's power rose during her husband's imprisonment and she became a prominent member of the ANC. But doubts about her role began in 1986 when she publicly supported necklacing, an horrific form of burning to death suspected government collaborators. These doubts intensified in 1989 when a 14-year-old Stompie Maketsi was found stabbed to death in Soweto. Winnie Mandela's chief bodyguard was later convicted of his murder and she of kidnap. When Nelson Mandela was released in 1990, Winnie walked triumphantly beside him, but their reunion was short-lived. In 1992, Nelson Mandela announced that the couple was separating. That hurt him. This sacking will have been equally painful. Closely watched now will be reaction here in the townships and squatter camps, where Mrs. Mandela has considerable support.
Never mind he can be fired or not, but he will remain our mama.
We will remain loyal to her. We will stand by her. She's got our support.
I don't think that she's the kind of person that can be treated in this way and that there can be no aftermath of it.
And that's the risk President Mandela is running. The woman who dresses like the rich but pledges her life to the poor could cause more trouble outside the government than in it. Mark Austin, News at 10, Johannesburg.
And Mark Austin joins us now in Johannesburg. Mark, can Winnie, do you think, whip up enough trouble to cause the president a problem?
Well, what President Mandela is banking on is that he has more support than Winnie, and there's no question that in South Africa that is the case. Winnie Mandela has support, but it's localised around the townships and the squatter camps of Johannesburg and Cape Town. President Mandela's problem is that if conditions do not improve for the black masses in the coming months and years, then Winnie Mandela will gain more support and could prove a threat to the government.
It must have been an excruciatingly painful thing for him to have to do today.
Well, judging by the amount of time it took to take the decision, that's the case. In 1992, when he announced his separation, he was visibly choked. This time, though, there was a clear determination about what he was doing.
And do you think this is the end of Winnie Mandela as a political force?
No, she's nothing if not a survivor. She has a great knack of turning political adversity into personal prosperity, and it's too early to write her political obituary yet.
Mark Austin, thank you. Here, unions representing ambulance men and women today turned down the government's offer of 1% on pay, with anything more to be negotiated locally. Like the nurses and midwives who've already said no to the same offer, they're now beginning to talk about industrial action. Our health correspondent Anya Sitaram reports.
Tonight at this ambulance station, thoughts are turning reluctantly to industrial action again over the 1% pay rise, which workers say will barely buy them a cup of tea a day.
It's about time that we was comparable with the police and fire brigade. We do as hard a job, if not harder sometimes.
The cost of living's going up, but our pay packets aren't.
We deserve at least inflation rise, if not more than inflation, because we're falling behind over the last 5 years.
Ambulance staff, who on average get around £14,000 a year, have been offered 1% nationally, but unlike nurses and midwives, no figure has been specified for local pay deals. Union leaders will now consult their members on what steps to take.
With every successive offer which disregards the importance of the contribution all health service workers make, with every successive offer the danger of industrial action becomes greater.
Ministers say ambulance workers are likely to get 3% like many nurses.
I would simply ask them to look at what is happening in another context for nurses out there in trust hospitals on the ground. There you can see that 75% of the trusts who have now come forward with offers, they have been at 3%.
Nearly 1 million NHS staff, from ambulance to ancillary workers, have rejected the 1% pay rise. While so far only the midwives are being balloted on industrial action, opposition is growing. Over the next few weeks, the government will come under increasing pressure. Anya Sitharam, News at 10, Central London.
Recriminations have been flying today about the disqualification of Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard, first and second over the line in yesterday's Brazilian Grand Prix. It was because they'd used irregular fuel. But was it deliberate cheating, as the Ferrari driver Gerhard Berger said tonight? And if so, who by? Graham Miller reports.
It was David Coulthard's 24th birthday today. He arrived home with little to celebrate and lots of questions that remain unanswered. Damon Hill, his Williams teammate, was just as upset. He believed fuel was entirely the responsibility of ELF, who supplied the petrol.
It's ELF's responsibility for the fuel, and they certainly, I don't believe they had any intention of producing a fuel that didn't conform to the regulations. It just, for some reason or other, it didn't match the map that it should have done.
But ELF insists they're innocent. They said the samples of fuel intended for use were submitted well in advance and were approved by the FIA. Both teams have lodged an appeal for the governing body to sort out.
Maybe ELF sent the wrong fuel, a perfectly legal fuel, but nevertheless the wrong fuel. Maybe our people made a mistake or the equipment went wrong. This is something we'll find out during the appeal process. But on the face of it, it wasn't the same petrol.
Although the Benetton and Williams teams were found guilty, only Schumacher and Coulthard were disqualified because only their cars were spot-checked after the race. Fuel testing has been introduced to restrict the use of any volatile concoction that could illegally provide cars with extra power.
You've got brilliant men who are the technicians at all the companies trying to outdo the regs. They say, that's the reg, now let's get as close as we can. And they do that. They do it so well that maybe it goes a little bit past it.
Never mind what the world saw yesterday, lawyers and technicians will now decide who really won the Brazilian Grand Prix. Graham Miller, ITN Sport.
And we'll be returning to motor racing and what they're doing to make Formula One safer this year later in the programme. A European Commission plan to make employers in, say, Germany give workers from, say, Britain the same wages and benefits as German workers from day one was blocked in Brussels today. It was supported by Germany, France and Belgium, opposed by Britain, Ireland, Portugal and Spain. Our political correspondent Adrian Britton heard the arguments.
Michael Portillo arriving at the Brussels meeting of European ministers, about to press home Britain's case that the equal pay proposal may give Europe's unemployed more rights, but not more jobs.
It makes it more difficult for people to offer their labour across the frontiers of the European community at a time when we're meant to be creating a free, single European market.
It may have provided the laughs in our Wiedersehen pet, British construction workers reaping in high wages in Germany.
I'm familiar with the English word tea break.
But the Germans no longer see the humour in firms exploiting workers from poorer paid countries. Under the current system, British manual workers can easily undercut their German counterparts. In Germany, a manual worker earns around £10.50 an hour, while his British counterpart earns just over £6. So if a German company pays Britain's £8 an hour, the company saves more than £2, the British worker gains £2. The Germans want change, so do the French, who say overseas workers should be paid the local rate from day one of their contract. Nonsense, say British bosses, that would be job destroying.
It is protectionist, it is not meant to help people get jobs, only to protect those who are lucky enough to have them.
But one union accuses Michael Portillo of supporting poverty pay.
Well, I believe he's shedding crocodile tears when he talks about poor workers not having jobs. I mean, the workers in all countries don't want to be exploited.
So, with the matter now deferred until June, Michael Portillo has bought himself some time and no doubt earned himself some favour among the Tory Eurosceptics who want to see just this sort of thing. British ministers fighting Brussels bureaucracy. Adrian Britton, News at 10, Westminster.
The war of words between the government and the BBC continued today, and it became clear that the Prime Minister himself is fully supporting his colleagues' attacks. They're on the BBC in general and John Humphreys, presenter of the Today programme on Radio 4 in particular. Today, the Environment Secretary John Gummer complained about the kind of questioning which doesn't give a person the chance to answer. Here's our political editor Michael Brunson.
This is how Mr Humphreys should be set up.
The Chancellor, making use of the old Cabinet war rooms to show off the VE Day commemorative coinage, today could joke about the government's attack on the BBC, but it has become a serious matter. Because it's now become clear that the Prime Minister himself, here after questions last week, is 100% in agreement with those Cabinet Ministers to whom the conduct of the BBC is no laughing matter. Jonathan Aitken, Gillian Shepherd and Malcolm Rifkind at the weekend. And today, Stephen Dorrell in the House of Commons.
I must say that's a bit rich.
And John Gummer speaking at Conservative Central Office.
One of the things that's interesting is that as I've gone round the country, I've often been congratulated because I have insisted that I should answer the question and have insisted that I should not be bowed to the agenda, which is very often clearly peeping out in the questions that Mr Humphreys and others give one.
For its part, the BBC insisted that John Humphreys shows due impartiality. We stand by the integrity of our journalists, the spokesman said. Labour said it had no overall complaint about the BBC.
Well, there are times when I think it's got political bias, but I don't think I could uphold the case. We've made complaints about the ITV and BBC from time to time, but we have to live with each other. Each has a job to do. The Tories just totally intimidate, and particularly the BBC. In the past, they've been reasonably successful at it, but we'll be watching that they're not successful at all this time.
And the Liberal Democrats, like Labour, say that the Tories are only doing this because they're running scared, so far behind in the polls. But the Liberal Democrats also say that Tony Blair, Labour's leader, is getting too easy a ride generally. Michael Brunson, News at 10, Westminster.
Still to come on News at 10, fleeing from massacre. Could this be the start of another Rwanda? The funeral of Davy Cooper, a sad farewell to a Scottish hero. And will they be the King and Queen of the Oscars tonight?
I was thinking that actually Nigel and I have done actually slightly better than the actual royals this year.
I've always been very competitive. Well, I don't want to hear that, do I? At the end of the day, you've got to look after number one to survive. Yeah, the right car is important to me. I think that it does impress people. Money, nothing to be ashamed of. If you've got it, flaunt it. Places you go, clothes you wear, people you're seen with, car you drive. Well, what do you think? Nah, it's not really my style. Know what I mean? Tell Charles I'm on my way. Taxi!
Oi, Harry. Do you know where gammon comes from?
Can't you ask, Mum? I'm busy.
Just 95p a pound at Safeway.
Now there's a new motoring organisation that offers a free mobile phone so you can call immediately for help, that rescues its members on average in just 35 minutes. In fact, promises to be there in under an hour or gives you back £10. Green Flag National Breakdown. Raising the standard of our vehicle rescue.
As any culinary connoisseur will tell you, no other butter tastes quite like Lurpak. Pure, creamy Lurpak is made from a delicious blend of the finest creams. Lurpak. It's a matter of taste.
Biscuits, burgers.
Milk, coffee.
2 sandwiches, 2 pasties.
Tea bag.
Tea bags, newspaper, dog food. Dog food. Crackers.
Cat food.
Cat food. 4 chips.
Cake.
Steak.
Cherry slice.
Oh, cherry slices. 2 pasties.
Esso has more forecourt shops than anyone else, where you can fill up with whatever you need, whenever you need it.
Bit peckish.
just a snack.
All you have to do is remember what you wanted.
Some people like to eat it because it's kind of Swiss. Others eat it every day and never. Some love it in the morning, but you don't have to eat it then. And some because it's original Alpen. Some people like to eat it when they're running late, and on Sunday morning it tastes great. Some eat it meditating with their